Okay. Oh shit, my phone is telling me I've got 46 minutes worth of like space left because I did the Xeno ones. I just did Final Fantasy and Lunar. So let me see if I can get series number 7 done within 46 minutes. This is Trail. Specifically, it's Cold Steel. I said one series is going to be divided into 2. This is the one. I said I would explain it, so let's go ahead and do that. For me, yes, I could talk about Trails as a whole and like talk about all the games. It would probably more or less still be where I have Sky at, but I specifically separated Cold Steel and Sky. If you've seen a lot of my other videos, again, thank you very much if you have, you can probably guess where the Sky trilogy is going to end up. But I feel like I can talk about Cold Steel as its own unique series and make it its own thing. Crossbell, that just doesn't make the list. I have a lot of problems with Crossbell. And when it comes to Kuro, I haven't played Kai. I will probably just play it when it gets translated. Really hoping like the end of next year. So like October, November 2025. That's a long wait, but I'm hoping it'll be then. Kuro 1 I think is fantastic. Kuro 2, Kuro can't make a list with just 2 games if one of them is Kuro 2. Let me be honest. But talking about Cold Steel, it does have its problems. Like the series as a whole, there are some bits in the writing and whatnot that I don't really care about, but I do like these games a lot as their own series. Starting with Cold Steel 1, I'll be completely honest. I think it is one of the lesser games in the series, but it was my first game in the series. I still liked it quite a bit. My biggest problem, aside from kind of how cheap the game feels in like its visuals, it's Rean and Elisa. I think Rean is super bland and boring in the first game. I don't think his design is the most interesting. It's like, what's his, like all these really cool weapons that you see and like, oh yeah, it's just, it's basically just a katana. I love katanas. Katanas are cool. It's not the most unique weapon. The whole, my ogre power, the way it's presented in the first game, I think is so stupid. I don't like it. It also has Elise. Gosh, I hate Elise. Everything about this character is just the worst. Elisa at least gets some development in the first game, and it's not like I hate her. She doesn't leave a great first impression, and honestly, I just don't really like that scene in general. I'm like, this is what we're doing, especially in hindsight, having played Sky. I'm like, this is what we're doing now? Okay, sure, dog. I'm also just not a big fan of the tsundere archetype, and Elisa very much is. It just doesn't do a lot for me. When you do get to know her better, even in this game, and like see her relationship with her family, like her grandpa, and the complexities with her mom, I think she's better, but I still don't love her. I think Rean gets way better as the story goes on. Or, excuse me, as the series goes on. But in this game, it's fine. I think the music is really good. I think the gameplay is really fun. I enjoyed the customizability a lot. And as I played more games in Trails in general, I really got into the customization. Here, I didn't really know what I was doing or know how to break the system yet. But I still had a lot of fun, and I really liked the side characters. Like, once I actually got Machias' story, I thought he was really interesting. I thought Fee was a really fun character. Emma was like, they're clearly saving you for something more, and we really get that later. It's like, I think she seemed kind of cool. Elliot's my boy. Sarah's just absolute peak. I'm not really going to try to go through everyone, but I liked a lot of Cold. It's kind of like what I was saying about Xenosaga 1, where I think it has some problems, but I think it lays a pretty good groundwork and foundation for what comes next, and I really appreciate that. Then we get Cold Steel 2. My baby, my beloved, my absolute darling golden child. I don't care that Cold Steel 2 is an unbalanced mess. I don't care that there are members of Class 7 who don't feel like they really do much. Like, Elisa kind of gets an arc with her mom, but I didn't really think it was that good. Machias doesn't really get to do much. It's like, yeah, he's in the party to save his dad, and that should be, like, really good and cathartic, but not really. Gaius doesn't really do anything. Milliam doesn't really do anything. God bless Elliot. I love Elliot. Elliot doesn't really get to do anything. Laura really doesn't get much. I mean, she gets like kind of a rivalry with Doobs, but it's fine. It's really, Reen gets a lot, Sarah gets a lot, Eustace gets a lot, Emma gets everything because she got nothing in the first game. Like, gameplay-wise, it's unbalanced. Screen time-wise, or it's like actual weight of the characters feels very unbalanced. There's this thing that I hate where Class 7 keeps calling themselves a neutral faction. They're clearly not. They're not like officially siding with the Imperials, but they're clearly against the Noble Alliance. They're not neutral. They're independent. There is a difference. To me, it's like there's an important distinction there, and they never make it, and it bothers me. There's also the fact that the way Reen treats Crow and like reacts to him makes it seem like they were best friends, like they had the most important relationship, they were bros to the end kind of thing. I'm like, I don't know. I played Cold Steel 1. Crow was not in a lot of the game. Like, I liked the guy fine. It just seemed like you guys were okay, but I don't know. I think Cold Steel 2... It thinks it did more work in Cold Steel 1 here than it actually did, and I don't know. And for a Civil War, this feels surprisingly bloodless. Like, people die. Like, there's the head of that one town. Like, that was sad, but I don't know. There's problems. There's things that don't work. It's like talking about Xenosaga 3. Or, excuse me, it's like talking about Xenoblade 2. I love it, but there's a lot of things I don't think work. But there's the rub. I love it. Getting the crew back together is one of my favorite tropes in general. Like, if there's two tropes I love, it is the dwindling party and the let me go get my friends again. And it was seeing Reen without his friends that made me start to really like the dude. It just, how like venomous he is towards Celine. Like, you separated me from them when they needed me most. I don't know where they are. I don't know if they're okay. If anything happened to them, that's on you. Like, I felt that. Like, I feel like I get to see a bit more of him as a person and as a character. The way he, like, resolves the whole ogre power thing, I think, is way better. The whole intermission with getting to know the antagonist characters, like getting Crow's backstory and the rest of the Liberation and whatnot, I think is so good. The stuff with Alphen I thought was really cool. There's not a lot of Elise in the game, so that's always a plus. Getting playable Sarah was awesome. There's a Laura button now, and she is Bunga Unga. Like, she surpasses Unga Bunga and is just Bunga Unga. It is amazing. I love the end game. I know the game is an unbalanced mess. I didn't really know how to break it yet. I thought I had kind of broken it, and then I got to see other shit later. So for me, the Vermilion Castle was an actual, like, I had to try. I had to earn those dubs. And it was so fun and so satisfying. Like, I remember fighting McBurn. It was like all this health, does all this damage, resists like every kind of magic. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a problem. And it felt so good to beat him. Cold Steel 2, this is kind of a weird thing to say about a game, but hear me out. My relationship with Cold Steel 2, for me, it's like, this is the definition of true love. Because I have problems. There are things that just don't work here for me. But I love it anyways. I love it in spite of its flaws. I love it for what it is. And I can appreciate what it is trying to be. And give it those bits of grace where I think it falls a little short. Like I said, it is my baby, my darling, my absolute golden child. Cold Steel 3 is better. Cold Steel 3 is my favorite of the Cold Steel games. And of the Trails series in general, it's my number 2 favorite game. This, like I said, didn't like Rean in the first game. Think he's better in Cold Steel 2. I think Cold Steel 3 is Rean at his best. I really like his character here. I think he's great as a teacher. I love his relationship with New Class 7. I love seeing him deal with the after effects of the Northumbria War. And his relationship with the spirit unification of like, yeah, this was something that I had in the last game and I understood it and I like understood myself and I could love myself and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I lost control. And I was unconscious for 2 days and still fighting. That's terrifying to me. And I don't want to risk that. Like, I understand I was under a lot of stress because, like, the war and I hadn't slept in a few days and blah, 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 blah. And I still don't want to risk it. I think that's really interesting. I love New Class 7. Like, I really like Class 7. I do. But I think that they, instead of like, all right, here's 12 people including Rean, it's here's 6 including Rean. You really get to focus on the individual members. And I think what also helps, it's like you get 3 of them at the start and then you get the other 2 later. So you get a lot of stuff with Kurt. You get a whole arc about Yuna and it's fantastic. And you're getting more of Altina as the game progresses. And then you get to Ash and Musei. And you get a lot more with Musei in the next game. Like, I think Musei in Cold Steel 3 in terms of like her character and whatnot, like her shtick is a bit much. It's kind of fun, but it's also like, it's a bit much. In Cold Steel 4, I think she's great. You get a lot of good stuff with Ash. That like, I don't know who my favorite character in New Class 7 is. Even not including Rean. Like, I know Kurt's at the bottom, but I am a big Kurt fan. I do like the kid a lot. I'm like, man, Altina's the precious gummit ball. But Yuna's chapter 2 is so good. But also Ash's character is also like really, like, there's just so much. And then gameplay. You get orders, and orders are dumb. Musei go brr. Musei is an arts machine gun. And it is so fun. Like, the way I basically played Cold Steel 3 was like, cool. Are you resistant to water? Cool. So you're basically neutral to water with how much damage you're going to be taking. Are you neutral to water? Cool. You're basically weak to it with how much damage you're going to be. Oh, you're weak to water? Oh, you're dead. On top of how Unga Bunga Ash is, on how good at breaking stuff Yuna is, Kurt works well as an evade tank, and Rean also go burn. Also, Altina's there to... she helps. I didn't use a whole lot of Altina, but... and like, I think she's pretty solid, but I think the game is very fun to play. So here's the thing. I love the individual chapters. I love the characters. It has one of my favorite boss fights in the series where I love Aurelia in the party and you get the fight against Aryan Road and the Stall Ritter. It is phenomenal. Here's why Cold Steel 3 is my favorite in the series and my second favorite game overall. One scene, and it's not the ending. I love the ending. I love how heartbroken I was at the ending, although I think it should have been Altina over Millium. I think I would have hurt way more. I think Rean, as pissed as he is, as much as I get it and I buy it, I would have loved to see his reaction if it was Altina. And I think the fallout in Cold Steel 4 would have made Cold Steel 4 a way better game. And I say that as someone who likes Cold Steel 4. I think it would have been way better. The best scene in Cold Steel 3 is when you get to Hummel. And you finally see it. And it's not that you needed to. But at this point, I had played the Sky games. Because I played Cold Steel 2 and was like, okay, I'm now going to just play this series in its entirety. And Cold Steel 1 got me like interested. Cold Steel 2 got me hooked. So after that, I played the Sky games. I played the Crossbell Twins. And then I went into Cold Steel 3. And now that I had context, Hummel was beautiful. And hearing the music and that it's this stripped down version of Silver Will, I think is a brilliant choice. And it's one of like the only parts in the game where I'm like, I don't use turbo here. It doesn't feel right. And then you get to the grave. And you see Dubes and Shirley. Duvally the Swift is one of, at least at this point, because we're not in Cold Steel 4 yet, is one of the most annoying characters in the series. I think she's funny as just this absolute girl fail, but she is very annoying, very like holier than thou and mightier than thou, and like, I think you're fun, but shut up. And you've got Shirley, one of the most disrespectful, irreverent characters in the series. And both of them are just like, hey, we got business. We got beef. We will let you pay your respects and put down the flowers. We're going to fight, but we're not going to fight here. We will let you do what you gotta do, and we'll wait for you outside. It is my favorite scene. It is my favorite scene in Cold Steel. It might be my favorite scene in the series outside of Sky. The ending of the intermission in Kuro 1 is a contender, because I did cry in that scene too. Every time I have seen this scene, I have cried. When I played Cold Steel 3, when I watched Clay play Cold Steel 3, I did platinum it. It's the only one I did, because I was like, all right, I'm so close. Let me just kind of speed run the game. Like, I'm going to skip all the cutscenes and everything. New Game Plus, easy mode, so I can just get shit done. I made sure to watch it again. I was like, yep, still cried. It gets me every time. I think, and it's like the respect paid to Sky does a lot for me. And the fact that it's these two characters. So, hey, Bahamut, you want to be in the video for a second? You want to come sit on my lap? Yeah, you come sit with me. Oh, this sweet boy, my favorite boyo. Hello, Bahamut. But, it's the fact that it's these two characters showing such reverence, no shit talking, no bullshit. It's perfect. Then we get Cold Steel 4. I like Cold Steel 4 a lot. I think the first third of the game where Yuna is the protagonist and you don't have Reen is incredible. And it's just seeing how new Class 7 is dealing with what happened, is how old Class 7 is dealing with what happened, the fallout from everything that happened. And then Reen comes back, and I do think it takes a bit of a dive in its quality. And it's not that I dislike Reen, because I really don't. I think what I don't like, it feels like when Reen isn't there, it can actually focus on the other characters and treat them like characters. When Reen is there, the world and story just kind of revolves around him, and not just a way where it's like, look, he's the main character, like he gets a bit of a pass there. I don't like the whole chosen one thing with him. He's like, oh, I'm the sacrifice and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just not a trope I care for. And yeah, it feels like, let me put it like this. When I play Sky, Estella's the main character, but everyone still feels like they are a main character in the story of Sky. When I play Crossbell, the SSS, maybe not including Ellie, poor girl, but it feels like they're all main characters in this story and like they are a team. With Cold Steel, it feels like Reen is the main character and these are side characters in his story, not side characters in the story as a whole or the main characters of their own. And that's what bothers me about it. I also don't like the way Claire is handled or the way Lecter is handled. It's why I think Altina dying instead of Milliam would have been more effective. I also would have loved to have seen Milliam deal with the loss of Altina. Because Altina dealing with the loss of Milliam, like, you get it for a bit and, like, it's fine. The other way around, I think, would have been incredible. And it's like, okay, so does Milliam betray the Ironbloods and that create friction? Or do they have some kind of, like, button they can push and control Milliam? Because, like, they don't have that with Altina, so... Does Milliam stay with the Ironbloods despite what happened and kind of work as a mole? I would assume she'd turn against them. Like, how does that affect things? I would love to see how that plays out. I think the rivalry of I think that's cool. I think it's fun. I like Cold Steel. I love what they do with Duvali. I've heard a lot of people be like, dude, I did not care for Duvali until Cold Steel 4, and now she's one of my favorite characters in the series. I get that. I'm in a kind of similar boat. I like the game a lot, but it's not my favorite. If I'm ranking the Cold Steel games individually, it goes 3, 2, 4, 1. I don't have any notes for Reverie written down because I'm not sure where I put it here. It's like it's Cold Steel 5, but it's also kind of Kuro 0, and it's Sky the Third 2. But it's mostly Crossbell 3. And if I am to talk about it, gameplay-wise, I think it's the most fun game in the series. It's so stupidly fun. All the extra side stuff I think is really cool. I enjoy it a lot. The new Picnic Squad story, I really like. Reen's story, I do like a lot. Lloyd's is terrible. It's, like, I've got my problems with Crossbell and Crossbell writing. This is in a whole nother category. Like, you want to talk about Risha, and how it's like, yeah, Risha's this really cool character, and then they stop treating her as such. There's this scene in Reverie where it's in the first, not like the prologue chapter, but Lloyd's first, like, chapter, and there's just this scene where he's alone with Risha, and the plot basically stops for her to essentially say, hey, by the way, I'm still one of your love interests, and I still like you a lot. And it felt so weird and out of nowhere. And it also happens with Ellie. I'm like, okay, I can actually buy it with Ellie. It happens with Tio, and I just hate that Tio is an option. But with Risha, I always just kind of felt like her and Lloyd have this almost like Batman Catwoman kind of relationship. It's like there's mutual attraction, there's mutual respect. But they understand it would never work. And they're like, look, it's cool that we're friends, genuinely. And it's cool that we're interested in each other. But we both know it's never really going to go past that, and they're okay with it. And then this scene happens. I'm like, oh, I guess not. And then she shows up in Kuro, and one of the first things that I think Xiao mentions is like, oh yeah, like there's someone in Crossbell she has her eye on. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess we are just doing this. Okay. So, like, it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm just not a fan of it. Lloyd's story in general is fucking terrible, though. But that's more of a Crossbell thing than a Cold Steel thing. As far as the Cold Steel aspect of Reverie goes, I think it works fine. And I think 7 on the list feels pretty fair. Like, I can't, as much as I love the Lunar games, I don't think I can put it above Cold Steel in good faith. I'd put Lunar 2 above Cold Steel 4. But I would probably put it above Cold Steel 2. I don't know if I could put it above 3 with how much I genuinely love 3. So now we got a few left. I've only got about 20 minutes left, and number 6 has 4 games, so I don't think I can get that done. So we're going to stop it here. We're about almost halfway through the list, at least in terms of series. In terms of games, we've got a lot to get through. But I think that's pretty good progress for right now. So I'll try to get these uploaded. Today is Monday, so maybe later today. I don't get them uploaded and time-stamped. We'll figure it out. Hopefully, as the week goes, we can get the rest of this done. If not, hopefully sometime next week. We'll see. Figure it out. See you around.